Thank you. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. 9 months ago, I started training for a 42-kilometer marathon. Over the course of 244 days, I trained hard. During my trainings, I ran for over 1,000 kilometers and almost got see-through holes in the soles of my running shoes. Initially, I aimed to finish my marathon in under 4 hours. And 10 days ago, I attempted the marathon. And I finished. I earned the medal. But the time it took me was almost by 30 minutes more than that for what I intended it to be. It was a clear failure. But it wasn't quite an unequivocal one, because I finished the marathon, I stayed alive, I'm standing in front of you and bragging about it. But from the goal-setting perspective, I didn't reach my target, so I failed. But was it a big failure? No, it wasn't. And definitely it wasn't as big as that of Terry Fox, whose story I'm about to share with you tonight. Terry was an ordinary Canadian teenager. A nimble basketball player. He used to run long distance for his college team as well. At the age of 19, Terry was diagnosed with cancer. While receiving chemotherapy treatment at the hospital, Terry learned from his doctors that if it was just a few years earlier and he was diagnosed with the same disease, the chemotherapy treatment success rate would be just as little as 15%. But thanks to the research that had been put into this area, the chemotherapy was able to extend Terry's life at that time. And yet, he came to realize that the funding that the cancer research was receiving at the time was definitely not enough to save people's lives. Full of compassion, Terry wanted to do something about it. And it was then when he came up with an audacious plan. Being a true Canadian patriot, Terry remembered the motto of Canada, which states from sea to sea, implying that Canada is situated between two oceans, the Atlantic Ocean on the east and the Pacific Ocean on the west. So Terry took a pledge to run all across Canada from east to west and raise funds for the Canadian Cancer Society. Everyone was talking him out of it, and even the Cancer Society itself appeared to be skeptic about his endeavor. And yet, Terry got the ball rolling. In April 1980, he dipped his right leg into the water of Atlantic Ocean. He filled 2 large bottles with water, one of which he intended to keep as a souvenir, and poured the other one into the Pacific Ocean on the west coast upon reaching his final destination. Fighting harsh weather, Terry started his run. On an average day, he would run for 42 kilometers, full marathon distance. And then the next morning, he would wake up and put another 42 kilometers. And the next morning, he would do the same again, and then again, and again. Initially, his efforts didn't receive any attention whatsoever. But the farther he ran, the bigger his fame grew. And the word of mouth was running way ahead of him. So people from all across Canada started sending him messages, asking him to pass through their town and give speech on different occasions. And Terry was kind enough and was doing his best to accommodate most of the requests, taking detour from his original route. By the time he reached the city of Toronto, 3 months after starting his run, in July 1980, a roaring crowd of 10,000 people was waiting for him to honor him at the central city square. The Canadian Cancer Society estimated that on that day alone, It gathered more than $100,000 in donation. It was amazing. And yet the story wasn't as happy-go-lucky as it might sound, because the cancer struck back. Day after day, Terry was feeling weaker and weaker. The doctors were insisting that he would stop his run and go back to the hospital to receive a full body checkup and maybe another round of chemotherapy. And yet he couldn't stop because he's run too far. He kept on running. 42 kilometers a day, step by step, day after day, week after week. Until September 1st, he stopped short of breath with intensive pain in his chest and asked people around him to drive him to the hospital. The next day, Terry held a tearful press conference where he announced that the cancer was back and it spread to his lungs. And unfortunately, he had to stop his audacious endeavor. After having run for 143 days and stunning 5,373 kilometers, which was almost 2/3 of his initial 8,000 kilometer journey plan. Oh, and there was one more thing that I forgot to tell you. The thing is that while the chemotherapy was successful in extending Terry's life, it fell short of saving his leg. Yes, you got it right. That right leg he dipped into the Atlantic Ocean at the beginning of his run was an artificial leg. Imagine, this guy ran 5,000 kilometers in just one leg. And he failed. From the goal perspective, he failed because he didn't reach the target. But was it a failure? Hadn't he set such an audacious, crazy goal for himself? Would he be empowered to fail at such a great scale? Would his failure motivate millions of people to participate in marathons years after his passing away? In fundraising campaigns named after him all across Canada? Would he earn such a great respect from Canadian countrymates that would earn him a place in a Canadian passport, so that people around the globe could actually see this hero? It certainly wouldn't be possible if he hadn't set that audacious goal. Don't be afraid of failures. Dare to set crazy, ambitious, audacious goals. Be nimble. Follow through as much as you can, because you never know to what stunning results it may bring you, even if you fail. Thank you.